Now, when it comes to burning actual calories, it was really interesting because I was eating a lot when I was bedridden. It's like I was hungry all the time. It's like my body was just craving food, yet I was losing weight. And I think a lot of that had to do with muscle wasting. I mean, with the body, it's use it or lose it, just like a lot of things. If you don't use the things in your body's just gonna get rid of it because it's like, well, why should we maintain this? So I lost a lot of muscle in my legs, my calves especially. My calves were like jello. I couldn't even flex my calves. I couldn't even flex my quads. When I would try to get up to go to the washroom, I'd sit on the edge of the bed. I'd try to straighten out my knee. And even doing that, my leg would be so shaky, I couldn't even do it. How's it going, guys? Miguel here from CFS Recovery here, just finishing up. Nice little snack. Just trying to get my blood sugars leveled out. Speaking of blood sugar levels, let's talk about that. Blood sugar levels dropping when you have CFS. Do you ever feel like you're just going through your day or you're lying in bed or doing whatever and you feel a bunch of random symptoms, of course, because a lot of times you feel symptoms 24/7, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, bam, you need to stuff your face with food. You need to eat something and it feels like you're almost gonna pass out. You ever have that? Almost like your hands get shaky and clammy and you need food in the next 30 seconds or else you will just pass out. You ever feel like that? Well, that is a very common symptom of a hypersensitive nervous system. This is something a lot of people deal with. They deal with blood sugar levels dropping. I remember I had to keep food by my bed at nighttime. Well, my grandma would prepare these yams. I was completely bedbound, and I had to eat these yams at midnight, at 4 a.m., at 6 a.m., and it's like my body needed food every few hours, or it felt like it was just gonna stop functioning. I actually thought I had diabetes many times. I thought I seriously had something wrong with my insulin levels or blood sugar levels, and we just couldn't figure it out. It's a very, very common symptom that people have, and they also think they have diabetes. But of course, you go to the doctors, you get your blood tests, and you can't really seem to pinpoint the reason why you're feeling this way. In fact, the doctors will probably tell you, great news, your blood tests are perfectly normal, when you feel like something is very off. So this is something that I've had happen many, many times throughout my illness. On and off for nearly 5 years, I dealt with blood sugar issues, energy level issues, and it seemed to come and go. It seemed that the more I was flaring up and the less capable I was in terms of capacity, the more debilitated I was and the more I had to stay home and could not take part in life, the more symptoms I had, the more of these things I had going on, especially with the blood sugar levels, right? So it's one of those symptoms that showed up in and out of recovery. I didn't have it all the time, but when I did have it, it really sucked, especially at nighttime. Because the thing is, on the very rare occasion that I did fall asleep for a few hours at nighttime, I was rudely awakened by my stomach feeling like it's eating itself and me having to reach over for that yam and just shoveling it down. You know, I didn't even take the skin off. I remember my grandma would just throw these in the microwave and leave 2 or 3 small ones beside my bed, and I would just munch on them at 2 or 3 a.m. And so I'd wake up almost like in a fight or flight state, a lot of adrenaline going. I'd eat that, and then my body would calm down. I'd try to go back to sleep. Then I'd wake up about 3 hours later, 3 or 4 hours later, and I'd have to scarf down some more food. It's really interesting because another thing that happened with all of this was I wasn't moving all day. I was lying in bed, not moving. And when I say not moving, I mean like I was not getting up really, other than needing to go to the washroom sometimes. When I was able to do that, I'd actually hang on to my grandma, like hang onto her shoulders, and then she would walk me over to the washroom, typically 2 to 3 times per day. I remember it was very rare that I could go 4 times. And I remember because I tracked this in a diary, which actually, this is a side note, definitely do not track how much activity you're doing. Do not track how many times you go to the washroom, because you're gonna start setting these limits, these subconscious limits in your mind, where if you're constantly going to the washroom 3 times per day, then the next time you go 4 times per day, you're gonna be terrified that you overdid it. So don't track, you know, how long you're sitting up for, how many times you're going to the washroom. It's just not a good thing to do. At least that's what we've seen. That's what I've seen working with hundreds of people. Now, when it comes to burning actual calories, it was really interesting because I was eating a lot when I was bedridden. It's like I was hungry all the time. It's like my body was just craving food, yet I was losing weight. And I think a lot of that had to do with muscle wasting. I mean, with the body, it's use it or lose it, just like a lot of things. If you don't use the things in your body's just gonna get rid of it, because it's like, well, why should we maintain this? So I lost a lot of muscle in my legs, my calves especially. My calves were like jello. I couldn't even flex my calves. I couldn't even flex my quads. And even just when I would try to get up to go to the washroom, I'd sit on the edge of the bed. I'd try to straighten out my knee. And even doing that, my leg would be so shaky, I couldn't even do it. And I used to squat 300 pounds, maybe a couple of years prior to that. So it didn't make sense why I was losing so much weight, because I was eating so much, right? I think over those 8 months when I was bedridden, I was eating probably 2 to 3 times as much as I used to. I would lose my appetite in the middle of a crash. Then as I was coming out of a crash or a really bad flare up, then I'd be so hungry, extremely hungry. It's like hunger I've never ever felt before. And if you go through this, if you deal with the symptom, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like the blood sugar just completely drops. So even though I was eating close to 3 times as much as I typically ate, I was losing weight, and I was losing weight fast. Like I said, it was a mix of muscle deconditioning, muscle wasting, but also I was confused because I was like, well, where is this energy going? Me as a personal trainer at that time, prior to getting really, really sick and during my sickness, I was a personal trainer, which is actually very ironic because I was helping people improve their health while I was just digging myself into a deeper hole with my health. So very ironic situation there. But I remember thinking to myself, I understand what basal metabolic rate is. It's basically how many calories your body needs to just survive if it's not moving. And for me at the time, it wouldn't have been much. I knew I was eating way more calories than I was burning, or at least I thought, because I wasn't moving all day, yet I was losing weight. So now looking back at when I was sick, why did I lose weight? Well, I know why. It's because I was running on adrenaline. Even though I wasn't moving physically, my body was so wired in this fight or flight mode, it just burned through any calories I put in my body. And typically we see this with people who are coming out of adjustment periods or at a certain level in recovery. When you're just coming out of being bedridden or couchbound and you start, being able to sit up a little more, or the energy starts coming back, because your nervous system is so hypersensitive, it gives you a bunch of energy, right? Which is why you get a lot of adrenaline rushes, perhaps at this state of recovery. It's why you feel wired all the time. You feel these tremors, it's like you're shaking. You get a lot of internal vibrations because it's impossible, nearly impossible in that state for your body to relax. It's like you're buzzing. You're plugged into an electrical socket 24/7. So all those micro movements, you don't really notice it. People don't see it on you, but you feel it. It's like this crawling under your skin, and it's happening 24/7. So that in itself, that's burning calories. Not only that, but your body's pumping adrenaline through your body because it's in this fight or flight mode. Now, you go from being very, very fatigued, very just worn out, tired, heavy, all of this stuff. And now your body's trying to give you back energy, but it does it in the wrong ways. It doesn't know where to redirect this energy. So it kind of just floods it all in your system, shoots your adrenaline up, which is why you can get very panicky and anxious. Even the way you think, like you're gonna have a lot of racing thoughts when you come out of flare-ups or even during flare-ups. And it's hard to think logically because this just floods your brain areas that are the most active, and it's your emotional centers that are highly active during flare-ups. I don't want to get too deep into that, but essentially it's like the surge of energy in your body, but it's not really energy. It's going to all the symptoms. It's like your body doesn't know what to do with all this excess energy. When it does that, you have tons of adrenaline, and that burns through energy, right? And when you burn through energy, your body needs more energy. And this can happen whether you realize it or not, which is why it can happen lots at nighttime. We hear all the time people have to keep something by their bed, right? Because they wake up and they're starving, and it feels like they're gonna pass out if they don't eat something. And it's really interesting how that works, right? You're sleeping, but then you wake up because you really need to eat food. And if you don't feel like you need to eat food, it feels like you're gonna pass out, but you were just passed out sleeping. So you get this surge of adrenaline, almost like your body goes into this shock. It needs sugar or calories or energy right now. And it can feel a lot like, I've personal trained clients with diabetes, with blood sugar issues. I've seen people go into shock, and we were very careful about it. They had heart rates, we made sure to ask them questions. throughout the thing, but it can happen like that, right? So your body can go into shock very quickly. But the interesting thing is, as soon as you eat that food, as soon as it hits your belly and you get sufficient calories inside of you, within like 30 seconds, already you start feeling better. Already your blood sugar starts to stabilize. So that's the really interesting thing about it, you know? And also, I've had this happen many times in emergency, where I was rushed to the emergency in an ambulance, and I was having this blood sugar crash. I was like, I need to eat right now. And they're like, no, you can't, because we have to give you all these tests. So I had to sit in the emergency room or lie down on a stretcher for hours and hours, feeling like I was gonna pass out. And they literally took my blood tests as I was in this like sugar crash. But guess what? The test came back and they're like, yeah, you know, your electrolytes are a little bit low. Blood sugar is fine, insulin is fine. Yeah, you should be okay. So it's really interesting. It feels like the blood sugar is dropping, but it may be within normal ranges, but that feeling of it dropping is amplified. Remember, all the sensations you feel with a hypersensitive nervous system, it is amplified. So when you get a little bit hungry, you might feel really hungry. When you see a little bit of light, like I have a light shining at my face right now, that is like someone shining a spotlight from a lighthouse in my face, right? Or if my grandma closes the door very softly, right? Just clicks it closed, it sounded like someone slammed the door, because all your senses are heightened when you have this hypersensitive nervous system. Now, hunger is also a sense. So that's gonna be amplified. Everything is amplified, and just remember that. So if you are dealing with a symptom, just know it's completely normal. Just understand that people deal with this all the time. It comes in and out of recovery. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't. Either way, with something like this, typically on this channel, we say respond well to symptoms. Swat it away, tell yourself it's just the nervous system. In this scenario, I would highly recommend to definitely eat food when this happens, because it's gonna make you feel a lot better. Now, something else you can do as well is if you find yourself waking up during the night, needing to shove down a bunch of food before you go to bed, 8, 9, 10 p.m., whenever that is, you wanna have slow digesting calories or slow digesting foods. Things like avocados are great, coconut oil, almonds, sweet potatoes are good, because I mean, I got hooked on those because it was those few seconds during the day where it's almost like I didn't feel any symptoms for those few seconds where that yam hits my mouth, because it just tasted so good, right? I remember food tasted really good as well. You know, it was amplified when I was sick. So I loved food when I could eat. You know, I was eating as much as I could, and a lot of times I did have to get spoon-fed. During those cases, I'm not really enjoying it at all. But food was a really good distraction for me. It's almost like when I was eating, like I said, I didn't feel symptoms for those first few seconds the food hit my mouth. And I remember many times I had these grapes on a small plate by my bed, and I would just spend hours and hours all day. My grandma would prepare these grapes, just wash them. She'd leave them with me, and I'd just like bite it and peel it, bite it and peel it. And the next thing you know, I had like 50 grapes by my bed, right? It just helped kill the time. So back to my main point, you know, if you want to sustain your energy a little bit more throughout the night, so you're not waking up in this frantic, I need to eat right this second mode, then it can help to have complex carbohydrates, or basically slower digesting foods. Fats are really good for that because that sustains energy. It's slower release into your system, and it's over a longer period of time. Now, if you do deal with this, just know it does go away. I don't have this issue anymore. I haven't had it for years, and my blood sugar levels are pretty normal, even after working out. Like, I don't really need to eat a big meal. In fact, I work out very early in the morning. I've been working out at about 5:30 or 6 a.m., pretty intense workout. I'll have something like a protein shake, but I won't eat a meal until about 2 or 3 p.m. So I actually intermittent fast now. If this was back in the day, there is no way I could intermittent fast. Like, I was on top of my meals, you know, because my grandma had this cadence. She'd just bring me breakfast. I remember because for 6 months, it was the exact same thing. 2 hard-boiled eggs, it was an avocado, and it was 3 sweet potatoes. And then there was also ginger and lemon tea, and also electrolytes in water. So that was around 9 or 10 a.m. At lunchtime, around noon, I'd have some, I think it was rice and cabbage and chicken. That's what I had. So the soup was also in there. That softened everything up. Then around 3 p.m. I had a salad. It was like kale, there was tomatoes, salt and pepper. Thinking back, I can taste exactly what it tasted like. And for dinner, it was typically the same as lunch, sometimes something different. So she did that for me. She literally cooked me those meals exactly for 6 months straight. And eventually, like I said, those blood sugar issues, they definitely go away. So I can assure you of that. And even though it may feel like you're diabetic, if you're not diabetic and the tests keep coming back normal, you know, this is nothing to worry about. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This video definitely feels like I could just tell my story and just relate it to you guys and tell you what I did and explain kind of what's going on. Because at the time, it really didn't make any sense. But now looking back and connecting the dots and having seen so many people go through this and walking them through their journey and getting them to a point where they don't experience anything close to this at all, it makes a lot of sense. And all it is at the end of the day is a hypersensitive nervous system. Don't try to fix the IBS issues. Don't try to fix the food issues, the blood sugar issues. Fix the hypersensitive nervous system, and that will fix everything else. I can promise you that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're able to take some value out of this and apply it into your recovery if you are dealing with this symptom. Comment down below if this happens to you, and also comment, what do you typically do about it? What kind of foods do you eat that you find very helpful? So always remember, you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. See you in the next video, and I'm gonna go back to not really stabilizing my blood sugars, but enjoying this nice little brownie. That's a good part about recovery too, is you can enjoy all these good foods that you couldn't enjoy during recovery. I'll see you in the next video.